Hello everyone, Sticky Yuta here, and today I'm bringing you a guide on how to kill bigger things as dinos that normally wouldn't fight them, right? So in this case, I'm an Elio. I have a pack of Elios. We're gonna go up against the Spino, which is typically not a fight that people seem willing to take. Same thing goes with Stegos, ducks, things like that. Big things that typically smaller creatures can't really fight. Reason being is they just get out damaged so heavily that they lose the fight pretty quick. But I found a way to fight bigger things using the combat timer. So what is the combat timer? The combat timer starts when you bite somebody or somebody bites you or hits you, whatever, with a tail or anything. Um, so let me go ahead and bite him. And as you can see, I have a combat timer which is 30 seconds. It's like the little eye above my stats. During this combat timer, so this is important to understand, during the combat timer, you lose the passive healing. What I mean by that, go ahead and bite me. Alright, that's good, that's good. So as you can see, I have the combat timer, and I'm actually not healing. Like my passive healing, it just doesn't work during the combat timer. And how to use that in a pack hunt, right? Specifically, a smaller. Well, I mean, you could be anything. You could be medium-sized creatures, big-sized creatures. Anybody can use it, but specifically smaller creatures because they typically wouldn't fight something big because they just lose. So, using the combat timer, we can stagger it. What I mean by stagger it is some of us can trade some hits with the Spino and keep it on a combat timer, and then some of us, whoever is damaged, we can disengage and heal while the others are continuously biting the Spino. That way the Spino is always on a combat timer, whereas me, for example, I disengage and heal, right? And I can be standing, I can be sitting, doesn't matter. I'll be healing regardless if I'm standing or healing, as long as I don't have the combat timer. While my pack mates are actually continuously biting the Spino and not allowing it to heal. That way I can replenish my health and go trade again and again and again, and you can rinse and repeat it again and again and again. Now, the bare minimum that you need is 2 people, but obviously the more people you have is better because you can trade more aggressively. What I mean by that is, if you only have 2 people, you have to be very careful how you trade, because if you take a very unfavorable trade, let's say I run straight into his claws and take a very unfavorable trade, one bite for a claw attack or something like that, I lose so much HP that it's gonna take me a while to heal, whereas the Spino only got 1 or 2 bites from me, so it's very minimal damage to the Spino, and it's basically gonna prolong the fight. So if you have only 2 people, you have to make it very, very efficient how you trade. So efficient ways would be like tail smacking on the head and dodging the claw attacks, or like maybe biting the tip of the tail. Don't follow me. Just pretend that one of the others distracting you. Or yeah, let's have somebody distract him. Another efficient way would be so this guy is distracting, and when I see an opportunity, I can go for a bite on the tail without getting hit. So this is like an efficient way of trading. But if you have more than 2 people, you can trade a lot more aggressively because now you have more people to rotate through to heal, right? So in this case, if we have 5, I can trade very, very aggressively. Just go in, get a bunch of bites in. Obviously, very unfavorable trade, but I can just disengage and go heal, whereas the rest of my pack continuously biting him. And they can also trade aggressively because there's so many of us. And even if 3 of us get really unfavorable trades, all 3 of us can go sit and heal, while the rest, the remaining 2, just keep biting and keep reapplying that combat timer to the Spino. So the Spino will never actually heal. So 2 things, maybe 3 things you actually need for this to work. 1, you need to understand the strategy. 2, you need to have some kind of decent communication with your packmates, and you obviously need them to know what you're trying to do. So you might have to explain to them exactly what they need to do. And then 3, you obviously need at least 1 other packmate. So you need a minimum of 2, so you and 1 other, but more the better. So Let's just have me and Harley real quick. So with only 2 people, like I said, you have to be careful, but you have to keep reapplying that combat timer, right? So that you cut off his healing. So in this case, just me and Harley for now. We're gonna start off on the Spino. We're gonna trade some hits, try to be as efficient as possible. Maybe tail smacks on the head, just like that. See, he bit my tail, but it does very, very minimal damage. So this is an efficient trade. So we trade. Once, let's say Harley's already missing 1/3 of HP right now. So what he's gonna do at this point, he needs to stop biting and stop getting hit. But he still needs to be here because we need 2 people to apply the bites in. So he'll just play distraction for now, right? Because he's trying to heal. He's actually not gonna bite. He's not gonna trade hits. He's healing while he's walking because he doesn't have a combat timer because he's not actually hitting the Spino. So he's playing distraction while I'll be the one getting the bites in. Just like that. So he keeps healing. Once he's healed, we can trade off because obviously while I'm trading, I'm going to get hit once in a while. And even though I'm full HP right now, eventually I'm going to lose some HP. And then at that point, once he's healed and I'm actually a little bit damaged, we're going to trade off. I'm going to be the distraction, just kind of pretending to bite the spine without actually doing it because I don't want the combat timer. And Harley will be the one actually applying the bites to keep the combat timer on the Spino. That's how you do with 2 people, but you have to be very, very efficient with it, especially if you're fighting something like a Spino. Stego is a little bit easier. I think Duck is a little bit easier. Spino specifically is very difficult because it doesn't matter which side you go from, he does a lot of damage, whether front or back. Whereas with the Stego, for example, it's very easy to get the hits on the Stego's head, which does minimal damage to you if he bites you. Now, with 5 people, like I mentioned, let's have all 5. We can trade a lot more aggressively. Now obviously try not to run into each other. I can just run in from a side or even behind, trade a bunch of hits, just like this. A ton of damage. And once I feel like I'm too damaged, I just simply disengage, and the rest of my pack just keeps biting him to keep the combat timer on him, right? While I'm just healing. I can walk, I can stand, I can even disengage. I do want to mention that while you're healing, it's really, really good for you to go get more water and food. Because from what I understand in Path of Titans, everybody keeps saying it, that food and water affect healing rate, right? So you want to keep your food and water as high as possible, and while you're healing, that's like the best time to do it. So I traded some hits. I'm gonna go ahead and disengage, drink some water. I'm actually full because somebody healed me earlier. Actually, there you go. So I'll refill while I'm healing. As you can see, I'm healing right now. I can go sit down if I want to. And my packmates just keep reapplying that combat timer to the Spino, so the Spino will never ever actually heal. It's important to understand that it's 30 seconds, so every 30 seconds, or maybe 25 seconds, they need to make a hit happen. They can do it efficiently. If there's only a couple people in the pack, 2 or 3 people, you want to try to make it efficient. Maybe tail swings. The safest way to get a hit in to restart the combat timer is actually the tail. Your tail against their tail, right? Because if you run in head first, because there's locational damage. Spino, go ahead and stop for a second. Because there's locational damage. If you run in head first, you risk getting hit on the head with the Spino's tail, right? And that's obviously not. Go ahead and stop for a second. So the safest way to restart the combat timer without taking too much damage is actually tail on a tail, because tail is 75, as from what I understand, is 75% damage reduction, which means if I trade tail on a tail, you will restart the combat timer, but even if he hits me with his tail, it will be on my tail, so it will be very, very, very minimal damage. But I accomplished what I wanted to do, which is restart the combat timer on him to keep him from healing. So that's the basic strategy.